All right, so now we are incredibly excited to welcome onto episode 2 of Kernels of Truth, Representative Cherlynn Stevenson, who is, doing good work in Frankfort in tough times. She is my representative, so I'm incredibly glad to have her here. I voted for her. I'll go ahead and say it. I also distributed leaflets, and my dog got dog treats from her, because she very wise campaign strategy of giving out the dog treats when she's dropping off the literature. And so Bessie is a big fan as well of Cherlynn Stevenson. Representative Stevenson, thank you so much for joining us. How are you this evening?
I am well. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being on.
Awesome. well, so I don't know if you've not seen this show before, but this is a digital demonstration. This is not just talking heads talking about, politics and news. Okay. This is a digital demonstration. So we start every interview with the question, what does your protest sign say today? You don't actually have to have it. It's just theoretical, but
Well, if I could have a protest sign with me on the House floor every day, it would absolutely say, it goes over your nose. That's what it would say.
Oh,
looking around, there's a lot of masks that are sitting right here.
That's a good one.
But of course, you can't have a protest sign. You can only have a long gun.
No, we cannot.
You can have a long gun if you like, but you cannot have a protest sign.
Right.
All right. So I got the first question for you, though.
Sure.
How is the session going?
I'm going to be really honest. We're struggling. We are in what we are calling the super duper minority. And so therefore it's a struggle. We have seen all of these bills that are detrimental to Kentuckians, bills trying to take away our governor's emergency rights and provisions. SB 1 would actually take food away from individuals that are hungry. So we should be there doing things that make the lives of Kentuckians better. In a global pandemic, we should be doing things to provide relief to families, to small businesses. And unfortunately, that's not what we're doing. So it hasn't been a very fun session so far, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Reading the news reports, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of prioritization of things that are important to help Kentuckians make their lives better. Denise, you have a question for the representative? Denise, you might be muted.
I was going to ask you more about the impeachment process.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not muted. Well, can you hear me? I'm frozen.
Yes.
Yeah, there was a little lag. You're fine now. You're good, Denise.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask you about that, but you just, we hear a lot about the process right there, what they're doing to Governor Beshear. But you just mentioned Senate Bill 1, and that's something that a lot of people have not heard about. Could you tell us more about that?
So currently under our emergency provisions, we are able, the Department of Health is able to dole out the max SNAP benefit. And I'm not sure if you all have heard, but there's been, a lot of SNAP cards that have been sent out to families, maybe even families who didn't need them, but if their child went to a school that was on free and reduced lunch, then those cards automatically got sent out, which is a really great thing. There were no state dollars attached to that at all. There are never state dollars attached to SNAP benefits, but under the emergency provisions, max benefits are being paid out. And so if Senate Bill 1 were to hold and that no longer stands, then that means that over 200,000 families that are currently receiving those max SNAP benefits would start to receive fewer groceries. And also grocers, local farmers stand to lose about $40 million out of their profits just in February alone. So really big deal, really unintended consequences of throwing legislation like that around. But of course, we've all seen that there are multiple states that are dealing with these kinds of things. It's an ALEC bill. It's an ALEC movement to to strip emergency powers and roll back COVID restrictions.
Yeah, that's a tragedy.
And we know that anything dealing with ALEC is not going to be in the interests of the people. So
it is not.
Yeah. We mentioned that earlier in the show. So Kimberly, you have a question for the representative.
Yes, how are you doing, Representative Cherlynn?
Well, how are you?
I'm well. I understand that you have a degree in behavioral sciences, and we have gotten news that Mitch McConnell was going to bring $5 million back to Kentucky for mental health. How can legislators on the state level, how can they make sure that that $5 million, some of that is going to go in their district?
Well, that is something that, depending on how the money comes in and where it goes, my assumption is that if that comes as federal aid to the state, then that would go to the Department of Health for them to help with mental health subsidies. Now, if that comes in a different way and it goes to different if it comes through a different avenue, then that's a different story. However, if it does come through that way, then that's just something that, we all have to try to advocate for our area and for any mental health institutions that could possibly, receive some of that money in aid dollars. There's also the possibility that could come in and could then we could see that in the form of Michelle P. waivers. There's just a lot of different things that could happen with that money. Fingers crossed that it does come in, and figuring out what happens with that money would be a welcome problem.
Absolutely. So quick question. You are known as an animal champion in a state that is consistently ranked as one of the worst in the nation in terms of our animal protection measures. I think largely because the horse racing industry is very concerned about anything that gives any sort of protection to their focus. And so what have you found? What's your priorities right now? Do you think you have any bills that you'd like to share with us that you think need some support?
Well,
or some help?
on that vein, we have had some really great news. House Bill 100, which is our cost of care. So if animals are seized, then it's a process that gets put into place so that the perpetrator would have to pay for the cost of that care while everything plays out in court. I'm sure that you all have seen, that there are various instances where multiple animals are taken. So there's a hoarding case, and those can just really rack up the dollars in just boarding those animals, feeding those animals, any vet care that they need. But that bill is actually going to be heard in judiciary on the 17th.
Yay!
So, any of you animal lovers out there, if you could help us contact the members of the Judiciary Committee and urge them to please vote yes, that would be really, really helpful.
All right, so that's HB 100. It's going to be heard on the 17th in the House Judiciary Committee.
Yes.
All right, you heard them, folks. Make the calls. That's wonderful. Any other questions that folks have, Kimberly or Denise, for the representative?
Yes. So as we know or hopefully we all know that this session, you all are establishing the budget for this upcoming year. What is the process? How is that going for you all right now? I know.
The process is kind of slow. I'll be really honest. we passed the budget bills procedurally before we took our break from the part one of the session. So we really kind of anticipated that we were going to come back into the second part and maybe pass those, possibly even the first week. But the process has been slowed down. There's not, the Senate and the House are just having a really hard time agreeing, which we know that that's what the conference committee is supposed to do. Unfortunately, there has not been a lot of Democratic input into that just yet. I have not seen where the bill stands at the moment. I think our leaders maybe got their first peek today. So hopefully we'll have more news about that really soon, but it's moving slower than we anticipated.
You know, I'm just so disheartened.
I know.
You know, it's when people, what they do with power when they have it. You would hope that they would do the work for the people.
Yep.
But to shut out one side of the party, one side of, you know, of the table,
yeah, of
citizens of Kentucky is just disheartening. And my protest sign was elections have consequences. And this is what we're getting right now. Yeah. The consequences.
Yeah, you know,
that was my frustration.
We only have 25 of the 100 seats, but we have a lot more Democrats in the in the state than that, and so they deserve a voice too. And I'm you know, really, it's unfortunate that right now we haven't been able to give as much input into the budget. Hopefully that opportunity is coming soon. I'm sure that when that happens, that will probably be live on KET.
That makes sense. Kimberly, any final?
Thank you.
You're welcome,
Cherlynn.
All right.
Thank you for all that you do. I know it's hard.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'm going to ask you now, like, a political question, just really quick. You know, so the conversation we just had, you know, very clear that, you know, Democrats are working for people, the Republicans are working for corporations or, you know, their proxies. Why do you think it is that we are at this kind of lowest of the low in terms of Democratic representation in the House and in the Senate with these, you know, super minorities? What's the like, it seems like the policies you're pushing should be popular. Why are the people not, you know, electing Democrats? You know, you got elected. It's a bit of a cliffhanger, right? It took a while for that race.
We had to hang on a few days to find out for sure. You know, and that's a big question that the Kentucky Democratic Party really has to ask itself. And I'm thankful that we have a year without any elections so that we can really get to work and try to figure that out. Because almost all of us were talking about quality, affordable health care and strong public education, you know, things that we would think are not wedge issues are things that most everyone could hopefully agree on. However, you know, it was just election night was a bloodbath here in Kentucky. And so, you know, we all know that there are wedge issues out there that have really deep ties. You know, I don't want to believe that this is truly just an urban-rural divide. I think it goes a little bit deeper than that. But we've got a lot of work to do to try to get out there and really talk to people. And I think that that's something that's going to have to happen. We're going to have a lot of conversations. We're going to have a lot of organizing to try to get back those folks that used to vote for us on a very, very regular basis. You know, I'm from Eastern Kentucky. I'm from Knott County. And we used to be as blue as we possibly could. I mean, that was Bill Clinton country down there. And then all of a sudden, it's just gone as red as it possibly can. Yeah. So we got to really figure that out. I mean, we know that during the Gore-Bush election that there was a lot of rhetoric really amped up during that time. We all know that Karl Rove is an evil genius. And at that time, we started talking a lot about gay marriage and abortion. And that was really started changing the conversation, I think. And so I think that we've really got to try to work on our messaging and find out what happens because, or what's happening and what will really start to resonate with people, because what we have been thinking should work has not been working.
Yeah, good points. I know that you're a smart campaigner. I know you also get the the value of organizing. I'm not just saying that because the dog treats showed up on my front porch, but there's a lot of folk. You get people out there. You talk to them. You have those interactions, even in a kind of COVID, crazy campaign season, and hopefully that's one we won't ever have to deal with again. To get the word out there. But thank you so much again. Any final thoughts you want to leave us with in terms of the legislature, the legislation,
I think
the
Denise
legislature?
has something.
Yes, just as Representative Stevenson just mentioned about the status of the KDP and us as a Commonwealth, I just wanted to do a quick plug for the fact that this year the Kentucky Democratic Party is going through something that we call reorg. Yep. You all, this is your opportunity to get involved. If you don't like the way that everything has been going politically in the Democratic Party, in this Commonwealth, this is your chance to get involved. So all you have to do is just go to the Kentucky Democratic Party's website and you can go ahead and sign up to get involved for Kentucky Reorg, because we need you. We need you to be plugged in. We need for you to be ready to make a difference and help out Representative Stevenson and other Democrats who are fighting for our rights in Frankfort. We need you.
Yes. Well, the one thing that I would really thank you, Denise. No, it's great, because that's what has to happen. I really want to challenge people to start paying attention to what's happening in your state house. It is so easy to follow what's happening at the federal level. We can turn on TV and there is 24/7 news coverage. Some of it, I'm not sure if you really even can call it news, but there, there's constantly information just being thrown at us about what's happening on the federal level. You can open up your newspaper and watch the news and you see what's happening in your local community, in your city, in your town. But to really follow what's happening at the state capitol and the House and the Senate, you have to seek out that information. You have to be sure that you're watching KET at 8 o'clock on Mondays and Fridays. You have to be following those things on social media. You have to seek out that information. And until we can encourage people to do that, they start doing that, they let their friends and their neighbors know that they need to be following what's going on, because the things that we're doing at the state capitol for 30 or 60 days every year is what affects everybody's everyday life, much more than what happens in Washington, D.C. And when we start to educate folks and get them paying attention to what's happening, realizing that their elections have consequences, realizing that when you vote for people because they want to say, yes, I'm with you on this wedge issue, but then they're turning around and they're voting against public education. They're voting against people who are hungry. They're voting against people who have healthcare needs. I think it's just, we all at this point as Democrats have a moral imperative to be sure that we are educating the folks around us to what's really happening. I know that so many people are turned off by politics because they hear all of that stuff, about what's happening at the federal level, and they get tired of it. But for a very, very, very short period of time in this state, every single year, their lives hang in the balance in more than one way. And we have got to get folks paying attention, wake them up, and get them focused on Frankfort.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks again. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Enjoy the rest of the session. And we will be contacting you. I'll be sending you more green slips, and we'll be working to make sure that more folks are in contact with their legislators as well.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you.
Bye.